ever feel misunderstood in a conversation, even though both of you have had the best intentions? This is probably the most common and deeply felt experience in relationships. Really what's happening here, often it's communicated in terms of, I don't think you're listening, but really what's happening is the other person's not understanding, or maybe they are understanding, but you're not feeling understood. And that's a much better thing to say. I'm not sure you're understanding me. Can I try and say it a different way? Is a really great move to make in those moments when you start to notice that you're getting agitated. And similarly, if you're the person listening, I really encourage you to say, I don't think I'm understanding what you're saying. Can you try and say it a different way? In communication, it's always that we're not feeling understood, not that the other person's listening. It can be, if you're the person listening, that you're listening within an intention to respond, but really you need to be listening only with the intention to understand what the other person's saying. And of course, what I'm referring to here are difficult conversations, the vulnerable conversations where trying to connect with each other, but ultimately we're also feeling like we want to be a bit self-protecting. And that's the challenge that you have as the listener and the speaker, to balance yourself, keep yourself really anchored in emotion, and use your thinking brain to communicate, and use your thinking brain to listen and make sense of what the other person's trying to say. So it's really important that you use the right language. Instead of accusing the other person of not listening, you're much better off to say, I don't think I'm understanding you, or I don't think you're understanding me. The other thing in communication that's really important is to make sure that you're talking about the same thread. Often, especially in sessions, I find myself doing this to demonstrate, there's a miscommunication here. And the misunderstandings are the most common disagreement style, where you think you're talking about the same thing, but ultimately you don't have the same meaning of the same thing, as opposed to a difference of opinion where we know that that's a finger, but you're arguing, well, no, it's a thumb, and whatever it is. We're agreeing on something, but we have a different opinion about that. So these are the two different types of conflict that occur in communication, and to be mostly aware what you're communicating about, and whether you're in miscommunication, misunderstanding, or whether you're having a disagreement about something. What I really encourage with couples is that there's a time that you agree to sit down where both people feel, really regulated and clear about what the conversation is going to be about. One of the tasks that I set for couples is to go away and for each person to make a list of conversations I'd like to have with the other about X, and actually to keep a list in your notes section in your phone, or in your journal, or wherever. Just work through those conversations when you're having a check-in chat, or a catch-up time, or a connection chat, and to not let these little agitations that you might have with each other fester. It's so important to keep harmony between you. When you are together all the time, and perhaps you've got kids and work, and you've both got families, that there's a lot of clarity about where the energy starts to get agitated. And if it's in one of you about something that's not related to the relationship, well, it's really important for that to be clarified so that it doesn't become a problem for the couple. When you're in communication about a problem, when you're talking and listening about something that's happened, it's so important that you are really steady, as I'm speaking now, in how you talk to each other. When we get triggered in conflict situations, we're really feeling, in some ways, with our back against the wall. And remember that you're in this together. One of the things I like couples to remember and remind each other is neither of you have an intention to hurt each other, ever. So even though I might be saying something that has a bit of edge to it, and you're welcome to remind me of that, my intention is just to help you understand how I'm feeling. So clarifying these things as you move through difficult conversations, and being willing to pause whenever you become a bit edgy and start to notice that your self-protection behaviours are starting to take hold and dominate the tone and the language. In that situation, as early as possible, you should stop talking. Hold your words is another one of my favourite phrasings for couples. Internally, just hold your words and just let the other person, I just need a few minutes. So you're not talking from a dysregulated state, because that's where all the damage happens. So don't talk, don't speak until you're calm and clear. Really helpful to have that as a mantra in your mind. The other thing about communication, difficult topics, is to notice when the other person's dysregulated and really try and avoid saying you need to calm down, because they ain't going to do that. They're going to ramp up. You're better off to notice that they're getting a bit edgy and peel out of the conversation yourself. You can use we language here. You could say, you know what, I think it'd be nice if we had a break. You don't want to be referencing it that it's about them, or you might start to notice that you're feeling a bit agitated, and you can use I language or we language, but we're not wanting to point the finger at the other person. So how about I just recap that for you? What I'm talking about here is how to have difficult conversations. Can take many sittings, so don't hurry yourself through these conversations. The minute you start to have that edge to your voice tone or your language, or you can notice the other person not listening, or if you're the listener and you notice that you're starting to get reactive, just take a break, come back to it when you're clear, when you're calm and clear and able to listen fully with the intention to understand. My style is an over-explainer. I'm sure there's many people that understand that from a speaking point of view and a listening point of view. One of my practices is to really think about what I'm wanting to communicate and really chop it down into 2 to 3 sentences. And it's so helpful for the other person to have it presented like that. And if you're listening, just noticing when you're getting distracted and keep your attention on what the person's saying and clarifying for them along the way that you're understanding, or if you're not understanding. And I guess the last thing that's probably the most helpful thing is to remind yourself that you're both here to get closer as a result of this conversation. You are not enemies, neither of you are the problem. Remember, the problem is the pattern, not the people. Be gracious in your listening and noticing judgment about what the other person's saying, and appreciate their capacity to communicate clearly whilst you are in these sort of tense conversations.